Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our weekly webinar for the school closure. This week, we are going to start talking about our end of the school year procedures, but I just want to remind you, as you're tweeting, please use our new hashtag PBCSD Virtual School Library. We know it's a lot, but people are following our social media and tracking what we are doing using this hashtag. So please use it. I'm seeing lots of great stuff come out through.
Is my mic on now,
this
Lisa?
hashtag. What?
Can you hear me now? Sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute my mic.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thanks. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. All right. If you haven't already done this, please don't integrate teachingbooks.net into Mac and VIA. We already pay for teaching books and the access is through the portal. If you have already done this, it can be deactivated. Send us an email and we will talk you through how to do this. It is not difficult to deactivate it, but please deactivate it. We already have this service. This afternoon, we are having our Topical Tuesday. We're going to welcome guests from the Palm Beach County Library System, and they're going to discuss their digital resources and how you can best them out to your students. So please join us again this afternoon at 2:30. So we're going to talk about ending our virtual school year today. It's sad that we have to end our school year this way, but we do have to. We do have to. As a mom of a senior, it makes me sad every day. But it is what it is, and we have procedures to help you guys through the end of the year. So this year's different, in case you hadn't noticed. So the end of the school year is going to look very, very different. So for your end of the year to-dos, you're going to complete the library program survey by May 8th. We are going to be sending this out to you on Friday. It will look mostly similar to previous years, and you should have no difficulty completing it. But we're asking for you to have it done by May 8th. We're also asking you to close any open inventories and finalize without setting the items to loss by May 8th. So these are the two big to-do things at the end of the year, all right? And then we're saying, please create a plan for reopening your library and welcoming your students back. All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Holly Ann. She's gonna talk to you about your open inventories.
So this slide will help you later to find your open inventories. Please close all open inventories, even ones that have been lagging and sitting around since 2010, 11, 12, 13. There are schools with inventories that have been open a long time, but we want you to close all of them, including the ones that you started this year and were unable to finish. The reason being, when they sit open for years, they're worthless. They don't tell us anything. So what you want to do is go in the back and choose the inventory you would like to finalize and click the finalize button. And then if you'll do the next slide, Lisa. It's very, very important. You click the finalize button, and I always say this: stop, breathe, read the screen, and change the radio button to ignore. The default is mark all items lost. If you have an inventory that's wide open that you did very little of because we closed, you could end up marking thousands of items lost. So stop, breathe, change the radio button to ignore, and hit the confirm button, number 2, the yes. This will close the inventory, and it will basically have zero effect on your catalog. And it basically makes the inventory, and I'm sorry to say this because I know that you worked hard starting them and intended to finish them and have it help you clean up your catalog. It in effect makes the inventory ineffective or without effect at all. But we need to close them so we can do something different next year to capture the things that we might be missing because of all the time out of school. So just one more final reminder, don't set the books to loss when you finalize them. Lorraine just said in the chat, if she finished a section, if you are positive you are at 100% on an inventory and or the limited number of items that are lost, you're positive that they're lost, which is hard to be positive of unless you've had a chance to look for those items. But if you're positive that an inventory is 100% complete, then you can go ahead and set them, finalize them the normal way and let them set the limited number of lost items onto the lost list. But we just want to be sure that you close them all, because you're not going to use those inventories next year. There is no point in leaving them open. And then we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Okay?
All right. So postponed until fall of 2020, collection development plans and goals and objectives. I know that this is a big thing and these are really important to our library programs. We are not saying not to do them, but we are putting them off until next year. There will be a training on both of these, and it will likely be online, and we will record it so that we can get to as many of you as we possibly can via the training. But we will postpone these two things until fall of 2020.
And on that note, I know that fall is an incredibly hectic time, and this fall will be especially hectic, probably very different. But just to remind everyone, by school board policy, every school is to have an up-to-date collection development policy on file and publicly available when it's asked for. So we're postponing this because we want to have all of our Destiny data ready for you. And also, we really don't know what budgets and so forth are going to be. So we're postponing it, but it will be very important for you to pick up this task in the fall and have this, particularly in the climate that we live in now. We have tremendous uptick in challenges about material. And this is a key piece in that challenge procedure and in meeting school board policy. We cannot be found not to be following our own policy. That's a conversation that Nolan and I had with the lead attorney for the district. It leaves us very vulnerable. So I know you guys are going to be super busy in the fall, but I hope you'll make time for that training. And that's why we're going to do like a blended online recorded, so that you can pick up the information, because those things are important, the plan and the goals. And then we just talked about closing all your inventories because you're not going to use them. We want everyone to please postpone an inventory until January of 2021. Lots of you are right on top of things, and you like to start your inventories in October or sometime in the first semester. We're going to ask you to postpone it and plan to do this in January. And here's our reasoning. There's going to be a lot of confusion in the collection of materials that have been out for a while. And we have a little bit of a plan for this. We're going to talk about that next. So we need time the first semester to ask and get back the equipment, the books, and so on. And so we want to not be doing inventory while we're still trying to collect materials that are going to be a little bit harder to get back. We want to try to have a goal to get that stuff collected by winter break. And then an inventory will be super important, because some stuff is going to sneak past you. Somebody's going to dump it in the library on a table. Somebody's going to be kind, think they're being kind, and put it on the shelf for you. And the items are going to still be checked out to kids. and we're going to be hounding kids because they lost stuff. We're going to ask that you do an inventory that includes all of your fiction and all of your nonfiction that circulates to kids. We don't really care about old reference books. And if you're not really circulating biographies, you could maybe leave that out. But we want the nonfiction and the fiction inventoried in January. This will find all those items that got stuck in your library after you were told to leave the building. There were people in the building. They could be dumping stuff in the library. They could be sticking stuff on your shelves. There's stuff that was left in aftercare that's still checked out to kids, all kinds of problems. This will find a lot of that stuff, and it'll be fair to the kids. It will take it off your lost list. It will take it off their screen as a bill. And so we want to postpone the inventory and be very strategic about it in fairness to the kids. And it will give us a true picture of what we have left after all of our efforts to get material back. So that's our logic there and why that's postponed. And we'll work with you. And I know it's hard to put it in a certain spot, and there's other factors that affect you then, but this is what we're going to try for. So we want to give the kids the best opportunity we can to return items. So what's up next, Lisa?
Betty, before I move on, she's asking if there's a way to change all the due dates. Leave them due now. Don't just leave them be.
Right. It doesn't make a difference, Betty, that it's okay for them to be overdue. You're not going to charge the kids. You're not going to stop them from checking out books. Just leave them like that so you can run overdue reports. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. The overdue report is the best way to capture what the kids have been sitting on all these months. So you just want to leave them overdue. Okay?
Absolutely. And to that note, getting all of these books back from the children is going to take teamwork. We know that you have fifth graders that are moving on to sixth grade, sixth graders moving on to high school, and high school seniors leaving. But trying to get as many of the books back as possible is going to take a lot of teamwork. And we have a plan to get all these library books back. So we're asking you to create a campaign to have the students return your library books. Create a cute thing on the morning announcements. Create a contest. Do something that makes them want to bring these books back. Now is the time to be planning that, right? So you can launch it right when you get back to school.
Think of all your advertising outlets that you have. Lots of you have a strong Twitter following from your school community. Use your Twitter account, use your parent link, use your school news, send home a flyer. And most of all, you catch more flies with honey. So try to make it as positive as possible and celebrate all the returns. What we want you to do on May 30th is to capture your overdue notices for your matriculating class, for your 5th, for your 8th, and for your 12th graders. Now, 12th graders are going to be a different kind of problem, but we want to do this snapshot, and the reason is that they will update Destiny sometime around July 1st or whenever they get SIS all straight for the FY21 school year. And your 5th graders will become the 6th graders at a variety of middle schools, and you won't be able to capture this. Your 12th graders will be matriculated out, and you won't be able to capture your FY20 12th graders with a simple report. So we want you to do this, and the only thing we want you to do with this file is save it. So you have it for a record, for a comparison. It'll just be handy to have this. So the screenshot, and I am working at a disadvantage. I'm working on a tiny Chromebook, and I can only see the slide really tiny, but I made that screenshot to show you how to set it up for a grade level. So you just follow those steps. It's on the third screen of the setup. Do your other normal things. I would filter the report for students only. Don't leave all the patrons on there. I would filter the material types down to the Chromebooks and regular for print books. Ebooks don't matter. They automatically get pulled away from the student's device. So material types regular, and whatever material type you made your Chromebooks, or if you have media tablets, leave those. And when you set up the report, and do it as an overdue notice that's set up to run on a full page. And there's a reason for this. So you save that report as a PDF file. It has an individual page for every patron that's in the report. There is a way, if we need to, and that's a big if, capital letters, if we were to need to, you can break that report apart. I don't know if you've ever done this. You can do it with Adobe, break it into pages, but you can also break it into pages by opening that file and painstakingly, each page at a time, resaving just the page as a PDF. And you would, in fact, have attachments that if we got permission, you could email home. We do not want you to plan to do this right now. Right now, it's against the rules to send that kind of information through an email. So please do not do that. Okay, that's personal, identifiable information, and that's protected by some federal laws. You cannot send the student's full name, their school location, and their student ID through one email. So we can't do it right now, but save the file as a PDF, but make them full page. Don't make the overdue report where there's 4 kids on a page. It won't be very useful later if we want to break it apart electronically. Just a hedge, okay? Full page.
So there's a question in the chat about understanding that the district is not planning to have library books returned at the end of the school year. The plan to have all of these things, materials returned, is in formulation. And that's going to come down from higher up. But we want to give you a way to start planning now to get all of these materials back.
Right.
So we will get direction from the higher ups as to exactly how we plan to go. But having spoken with Nolan, our plan will complement whatever plan they come up with.
Yeah, remember, we're in a great state of flux. We have to be ready to turn on a dime. So you can't go by what we did last year. And so we'll just wait for instructions. But these steps that we're giving you will be helpful no matter what they decide to do. The number one thing is, do not sit and bill all your kids for the books they haven't returned because they haven't been at school. Please do not do that. Please do not create an obligation list. They shouldn't be changed to bills and put on an obligation list when schools have been closed. Okay, I'm talking about library books. I'm not in charge of textbooks, but please, please resist and have them talk to Nolan. They shouldn't be put on an obligation list because we've been closed and they've had no opportunity to return them. Just because, well, every spring we make an obligation list. Well, this isn't every spring, and we shouldn't be doing that. And we definitely shouldn't be transferring it to SIS so that every kid has a bill for something we're assuming they're not going to bring back. Okay, so please don't do that. But this is a way to capture your 5th graders before they exit, and we have a plan going on. So if you go to the next slide, Lisa, I think
there's a couple of questions we need to address before we move on.
Yeah, I can't see that either.
That's okay. We're getting questions. Do we need to wait until May? No, it's not. And it's not like people are going to be returning the books between now and then. Yeah. You could do this now, but by May 30th, that would be your deadline to do this.
Yeah.
The next one is, what if your clerk already changed the due dates of the materials?
What did they change them to? Are they due in another 2 weeks? Did they change them to due in the fall? What did they change them to?
The fall.
And you're going to have to run a report, Shannon, that's all items that are checked out instead of items that are overdue. There's a choice for that. You'll have to run everything that's checked out.
And it'll give you the same information. It just won't be overdue. And David Wojtek said that his principal contacted him that he may need to go into school a day in May or June with the ITSA to collect Chromebooks. To our knowledge, the procedure has not been defined yet. So,
I mean, it may be, David. We
Right.
get things kind of second. The upper leadership is in discussion now, so maybe that's your principal has been proactive and made their own plan, and they are going to, or maybe they've been told. I don't know.
Right.
We haven't been told.
It's good to have a heads up, and it's great that she's letting you know.
And that's a separate deal, the Chromebooks. So, and you may
Right.
get some books back. I don't know, but this is all planned based on the fact that they probably are not going to bring all these people back to schools in May. Because our schools are closed for a reason. But who knows what they'll decide to do tomorrow.
Right.
But this is based on us returning in the fall, physically.
Right. And then we have one other question. If you're going to a different school next year, do these reports, save them and give them to your clerk or to the person who takes over your job at your school the next year. That way they have that information, but you will have captured it.
And so I see David's chats coming up and saying, continuing to describe his principal's plan and logic there. And so let's just say to everyone, if we end up in a situation where they put it out to all the parents, drive through your school and please drop off your textbooks, drop off your library books, and drop off your Chromebooks. If that's the plan they go with, then this still works, because go ahead and capture what your fifth graders owe you, because they're going to disappear out of your database soon. So you have that, and you'll just know that then you'll check in those materials and you can match it against that file. You still need to know these things, and you still follow these steps whether stuff has been returned or not, because you're going to encourage the return by running the report and finding out what you need to ask for and asking the students. So it'll still work, even if they do a collection, say in May or June, like David's describing in the chat, which could very well happen. Or, that you have to know, I mean, our heart of hearts is our library books. But you have to know the district, what they're worried about is their hardware. And so they may exclusively collect hardware. It's still an overdue notice for you if you put it in Destiny. But so let's just see how that rolls out. That may very well happen, what David's describing, if that's what they decide to do. But this book return plan will still work.
And then
go ahead.
We're getting a question about the issuing of Chromebooks and about inputting the Chromebooks that were issued out. Betty, I'm assuming that those were not already in Destiny, and there's going to be a plan for Chromebooks and where they're going. Just stay tuned, and we'll get that information out.
The bottom line is, if you have Chromebooks that have never been cataloged in Destiny, don't do it. We are no longer cataloging Chromebooks into Destiny Library Manager. It's too late. That horse is out the gate. We're in a big transition, and you'll find out more later. But if they're cataloged in Destiny Library Manager, you can continue to check them out until you're in and out until you're told differently. But do not add any Chromebooks, laptops, MacBooks, iPads. Do not add any electronic devices to Destiny Library Manager. until further notice, okay?
So now, the first week of school, you're going to run overdue notices for your entire school. But you're going to make sure to check the box for patrons of other sites that have my materials. And this is really important. So that's going to help you get books back from students that have left your school.
And in the case of the example Shannon gave us, if you're you still want to run this the first week of school, even if your items are mostly still under checked out, but not under overdue. Just there is a radio button you can choose on the first step of the report that says all items that are checked out. And that'll capture them whether they're overdue or not, if you're one of those people that change the due dates. And it'll still work. And then you would still do this step and to capture the stuff that is overdue. Okay, this will capture your former fifth graders, your former eighth graders, and maybe your former 12th graders. I'm not sure about those ones that have matriculated out of the system, but the kids that we can still talk to, those fifth graders that have moved to sixth and the eighth graders that have moved to ninth, this will capture them for you, what they owe you. And then the next slide's going to explain why, or what we're going to do next. So you will, wait, back up one slide. We missed something, Lisa.
No.
All right. Well, what you want to do with this report is you want to take the ones, you want to sort them. You're going to find ones that are like, oh, this is Johnny Smith. He was in fifth grade last year. It says he's at Eagles Landings or whatever. Okay. You're going to sort those out and you're going to send them to your colleague at that middle school with a note that says, these are the materials. These students were at my school last year as fifth graders, and they still owe me these items. You know, please help. That's what you're going to do with this report. Besides the fact that the kids that are at your school, of course, you'll give them their report or their notice, but make full page notices and send them to your colleagues so that they can physically hand out the full page notice to the students that are new at their school. Okay. And I keep harping on that full page thing. And I know paper costs money, but a ream of paper costs less than one single book. And if you get back 10 books, you've made money. So full page things are easier to keep up with and easier to hand out.
Right. So you're going to collect these books for 3 weeks. And then you're going to run that same overdue report again, checking patrons of other sites that have my materials. You're going to accumulate the books that need to be returned to your feeder schools and send them one small box at a time via the pony, right? Really important. You cannot inundate the pony. You can send them only one small box at a time. When you get an envelope from another school, and you will, look up that student in Destiny using your patron status screen. If the item is on the screen, give the kid the notice. If not, throw it away and celebrate that they return their books. But you're going to have to go through these notices you get. We know it's tedious. We know it's time consuming, but we don't want to give our students notices for books that they have already returned. And there will be some lag time with the pony.
Right.
So please, please, please.
To do a report, and you can do whatever you want for the kids at your school every day or whatever you want to do. But the reason we chose 3 weeks is this. If you send, because I can see Michelle Martino on my screen. If I send Michelle Martino a request to please return, please find these books from the kids at your school, she has to have time to do that. And so you don't want to run and send her a report every 5 days. So we figured 3 weeks. Michelle would get them. She'd give them to the kids. She'd ask them a couple times because you know how it takes time. Then she'd finally get some. And then she'd put them in the pony. And the pony, it's not a transporter. It's a 3-legged pony. It's slow. You'll get them, in another week. And so then run the report, and instead of sending your colleague the same kid's notice over and over and over. You got to have some time lag. And that's why the 3 weeks. We just kind of figured the way things travel, that might work.
Right. And look, as you're checking out books to your students in the fall, if you have a new student, you see they owe books to their old school, ask them about them. Help your colleagues out. Try and get those books back for them and put them in the pony back to your colleagues. It's really all about the teamwork in this, and it's something different. We've never had to deal with this. It's just been a kid here, a kid there. But this is going to be a lot.
Yeah, and that's why at the bottom, the last bullet says, follow this procedure until the last day of school before winter break. Because we figure now you may get to a point where you've run it and you're like, I don't have any books to ask for. Yay, I've succeeded. So, but I would still follow this procedure and at least ask my own patrons for their books on a very frequent basis. Don't just ask them at the beginning of school and then wait until April when they're going on a field trip and saying, aha, you didn't respond to that overdue notice I gave you in August. Ask them. The more you ask,
Right.
the more you'll get back. It works.
Be nice about it. Celebrate them when they return those books. Make a big deal about it. Make them feel really good for doing the right thing. This is really important. Postpone setting any books to lost until April of 2021.
Okay, let me explain why April of 2021. So we move along, we do this plan to winter break, asking for books and helping each other and sending books to other schools and so on. And then in January, we do that inventory we talked about of the main sections that are most popular with your students, fiction and nonfiction. By doing that carefully, you will locate books that were checked out to kids and take them off their screen. So now you've got a really clean catalog in terms of circulation, hopefully. When you finish that inventory, you are going to complete it and set the items you can't find to lost. And you'll have a loss list, and it'll be huge because probably you have a loss list that's been accumulating like a lot of people. I've seen loss lists that have been accumulating for the 10 years of Destiny's existence. I've seen loss lists with 8,000 items on them. Okay, so we want to clean those up. So you're going to look closely at your loss list, take it to heart, and then in that January inventory, when you finalize it, you're going to do the frozen thing and you're going to let it go. You're going to let it go to lost, and you are going to delete your lost. Now you want to have checked over your lost list carefully so you don't have to put a whole bunch of stuff back in. But if it's really lost, it should go. All right. So now you have 0 on your loss list. In April, when you start thinking about closing out the school year for 21, you're going to be looking for those, books by sending out the overdues and so forth, but you're going to run up against some kids. It's like, okay, this is never coming back. That's been on their screen for a whole year. I got to set that to lost. So now you will have a clean new loss list to work from. It'll be the items that are truly lost if you follow those steps. And that's why don't set anything to lost until April 21. And what we mean by that is the kiddos. Don't move their books to lost until April. Okay? Makes sense?
So,
this is going to really make your catalogs clean and give us a real good record of who really owes and so on.
It's going to give you a perfect snapshot of your library when you send it to either Mackin or Follett for analyzation. You're going to see what you have, what you need. It's going to really help you with collection development as well. So before we move, go ahead.
No, it's just, I'm saying it's a plus. But in that last note, not to read every bullet, but please don't put library bills in SIS until further notice. Okay?
So Yeah, and before we move on, there's a whole bunch of questions. So all of my Chromebooks have been added to Destiny, but my ITSA ran the disbursement of them to students who needed them and teachers. He has a master list of who has what, and none were checked out through Destiny.
Okay. So here's your deal. The spreadsheet that he has, I hope it probably has the service tag or serial number and the student's first and last name and hopefully their student number. So you have a choice. That master list, that spreadsheet is absolutely essential to hang on to. So back to our thing about no longer entering equipment items in Destiny Library Manager. And I say that with emphasis because we are currently in transition to adding a third Follett Destiny tool. It is called Library Resource Manager. And going forward, all equipment, particularly hardware, is going to be tracked in there. Now, it is a transition. It is taking time. But the Chromebooks are the first item that they are transferring as we speak. They're working on the setup. And Chromebooks will be the first item that's going to be transitioned to Resource Manager. You don't want me to bore you with how they're going to accomplish this with some autocode technical magical stuff that the Google team does, but they're going to do a certain portion of this in the background, and that spreadsheet is going to be the cross-check of the items. So you want to hang on to that spreadsheet. So the short answer is you don't have to do anything. You don't have to check out your items, cross-check them out, duplicate the checkout off your spreadsheet into Destiny. Okay, you do not have to do that, but you need to guard that spreadsheet with your life. Okay, because there will be some discrepancies and that spreadsheet's going to help them clear it up with what they're going to transfer to Resource Manager. And that'll make more sense once it's all in place and they do the training. If you want to, there is a tedious process where you can very carefully assign the item to the person in Destiny if you wanted to. But you'd have to be real careful not to make any mistakes so that you don't have like a third source that says, oh yeah, this machine was given to Joey Smith and the spreadsheet says the machine was given to Paul Jones. You don't want to make a mess out of things. But there is a process I can teach you in a Google Hangout. It involves copying and pasting. The only reason you would want to do this is so that you could print an overdue notice for the Chromebooks. But they'll probably be able to do that out of Resource Manager. But if you really just want that overdue notice, then you could go through the tedious process. Personally, I would hold my breath for what they're doing and hang on.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't let that spreadsheet get lost for anything.
Absolutely. Cheryl, what if we don't open in August on site? The key to all this is flexibility. We will share information with you as soon as we have more. We just don't know. So we're making a plan to open up in the fall like normal. That is all we can do at this point. Can we weed before January? There is no reason not to weed.
Except, sorry.
Go ahead.
Nolan told me that the trucks will be super backed up when we go back. And so if you want to weed and do a box here, a box there, that can go through the pony, but don't plan to weed and have 180 boxes that need picked up in October, November. That we need to wait till the fall to figure out. Okay?
Okay.
Don't do a massive weed because the guys will be backlogged delivering. So let's wait on that. But and here's the thing, in best practice, weeding should never be done. Once every 10 years, I'm going to weed 200 boxes worth of stuff. Weeding should be done a little here, a little there to groom the collection and keep it up to date. So maybe you look at one area, or you pull out the very oldest in your 500s and 600s to keep that area up to date. The other thing is budgets are going to be super tight next year, and you're not going to be able to replace much. So you don't want to weed too deeply.
Right.
Yeah, I would hang on to the fiction that you have, unless it's raggedy. That would be the things that I would get rid of. Raggedy, ruined, something you find that's like, wow, how did this get left here? It's published in 1955, something like that. But let's not do a huge weed for right now until we find out how the instructional materials trucks are going to run.
Right. We're getting questions on the terms of budget. We have heard nothing about whether they are going to unfreeze it this year. I would think that's highly unlikely, but we don't know. As of right now, just plan for having frozen budgets for the foreseeable future. And then we're getting asked, who will be managing the new library resource manager area? Will it?
That's to be announced. That's
correct.
Still negotiation. It may be a partnership and overlapping between different people on the staff. This is a partnership between IT and instructional materials department, so it's to be announced. But I will tell you this, if they do have media specialists play a role in this, so that you don't lose sleep over this, resource manager is built to catalog equipment. It is insanely easier to enter items. So your role will probably be something in the nature of you can check items in and out. They can come to you to check out a Chromebook or whatever it is. It's a long explanation, but the product works differently than Library Manager. Library Manager was never meant for describing hardware. And that's why the process is so tedious to enter them. Entering these items, the way I understand it, the hardware items, some of them are going to be automatically loaded. And you will just scan a barcode to receive them into your school. Or you will have a record that all you do is scan the service tag on the machine and it enters it at your school. Totally different process. No call number, no attach another barcode, no buying barcodes, no asking for a title record from Holly to describe your item. Totally simpler process. So don't panic about being involved in that. Like I said, they're still working that part out, but it's going to be better, she says with a smile on her face.
We have our fingers crossed, but it should be a much better procedure than what we've had in the past.
And we were going to remove that stuff out of library manager so that your catalog will be better. So, yeah. But it's a long process. Just hang on.
But it's a win for us. It's really, really going to help us in the long run. We were able to get a custom domain for our Library Current website. So you can now find us at librarycurrent.palmbeachschools.org. The bit.ly still works, but we are librarycurrent.palmbeachschools.org. If you haven't already sent us a link to your virtual media center, please send us a link so we can feature it on the page. I love seeing all of your virtual libraries. It's so great how they all reflect your different personalities and your different school communities, and it's a really wonderful thing to see.
It's super. So and if you don't follow Keith Oswald on Twitter, he tweeted out, "This is awesome," in response to Lisa tweeting out the page. He was very impressed. So yay, you guys. Way to go with PR for libraries.
You guys totally rock. Yesterday in the Google Plus community, there was a large discussion about Bitmoji scenes. These are a great addition to your virtual libraries. They will personalize your library pages. If you are interested in using Bitmoji scenes and are unsure of where to start, I added a page to the Library Current website so you can get some tutorials on Bitmoji scenes. They're super easy, super fun, and you can totally personalize your Google Classroom or your Google site. Kathleen, definitely share librarycurrent.palmbeachschools.org with your clerk. She can see everything that's going on. Jennifer, once you finish the site, publish it and send the link to us and to your faculty and staff so that they can see, and your students, of course, your students, so that they can see your virtual library.
Lisa,
yeah.
This is the first time I'm doing all this stuff, so I'm not really sure. I'm almost finished. So when how do I just share it? Like I just copy paste the link. Like how do I share it?
There's on Google Sites. So on Google Sites, you'll see there's like a link, and you can copy. It says copy publish link, and that would be what you send out. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Use whatever means you have to advertise it. Email it to your faculty, post it on the whatever pages your school uses and engages with at Facebook, whatever it is. So.
Okay. So when I hit publish, where does it go? Like what? I know it sounds so stupid, but I'm not sure. Like,
it just stores it in Google Cloud, and then that link gets them there.
And then so when I send it to my principal, I guess she said something like I should send it to her so they can attach the link to our website. Is that how that works?
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Okay.
You don't have to get a custom domain. We just did that to brand ours because EdTech suggested we do it. But
all right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
If anyone has questions about Google Sites, I'm fairly adept. Email me and we will work through it.
No, when you publish a Google site, technically, depends on what you set it at, I guess.
Right. So, Amy, when you publish a Google site, it depends. You can make it visible to Palm Beach schools or to the world. It's entirely up to you. Cheryl, it's not required. It's really entirely up to you if you create one. But we are asking to consider creating a virtual library for your students.
I think the kids are going to get used to this, and I think you should consider leveraging this even after we go back to face-to-face. You would maybe leverage it in a different way, but I think you're going to find your site's going to be kind of popular, and it's another way to communicate with your school community. I would consider keeping it and adapting it to the face-to-face setting once we're back to situation normal.
Right. So. Tony's asking, should we have a Google Classroom and a Google site? It depends on your school, your community. It has to be what works for you. But I like the idea of a Google site. It's a little prettier than a Google Classroom. And it's a way to disseminate information to lots of different people at one time. Christy is asking how this is different from 3 Google Media classrooms you have set up. It's just an easy way to serve out information.
There you go. Amy says it's like a website for your library. It's a website. Right. That's what Google Sites is. Google Classroom is a virtual classroom. And there's a lot of uses for that. I know there's a couple media specialists. They were already using Google Classroom as part of their media program. The kids came into their libraries and picked up their assignments from a Google Classroom, even though they were face-to-face. So it's a teaching tool, and you could, same thing, you could consider continuing to use it if if it's something that appeals to your kids and it's a way to serve out instruction in your program, there's no reason why you can't continue it if you want to.
Right. It's a really, really useful tool. It's a virtual portfolio for your library program. And for those of you who consider doing Florida Power Library, you can use your website for that portfolio. So it's a really, really useful tool. I would think it would be something wonderful for you all to start thinking about now. Start small. It doesn't have to be big. Don't make it overwhelming. Kimberly Bauer shared a good point saying you can share information with your stakeholders who are not within the domain on a Google site, right? Your parents can't get to the Google Classrooms, but they can get to the website. David's using it to share out all kinds of fun information. He put out into the chat that he just added the escape rooms that Tempe shared with us last week. So it's definitely something to consider. If you need help, please email me. I'm happy to help with that. Are there any other questions that you have?
Don't forget to talk about this afternoon's webinar again.
Oh,
just
right.
remind everybody.
So this afternoon, we have a webinar at 2:30, and we have the librarians from Palm Beach County Public Library coming to join us, sharing out about their digital resources and how we can best serve those out to our students. I think you will all find it really informative. I hope you'll all join us this afternoon. It's only 30 minutes and a great use of your time.
But it will be recorded like they always have been and posted.
Absolutely. And Michelle, thank you. The new Sunshine State reader list comes out this Thursday. Watch social media for that.
And since we've mentioned that, and we have so many of you here, and you can pass the word about the Sunshine State, Library Media always tries hard to purchase Mac and Via ebook copies of the Sunshine State and the Florida Teen Reads books. But as we've discussed, the budget is frozen. So for now, sadly, you're not going to be able to count on Library Media buying those ebooks for the start of the summer like we would normally try to do. Maybe if we're lucky after July 1st, that's the new physical year. And that's our goal. We're not going to give up, but yeah, stinky winky, Shannon, thanks. Yeah, but just to give you a heads up, we're sad about it, but for now, it's not going to happen from our end. But we will celebrate if they let go of the money and let us do it after July 1st. It'll be better than not at all, but just a heads up on that. Sorry, sad note. Excited about the list coming out though.
Amy, we're going to be talking with the librarians offline about if they're going to buy the e-versions of the SSYRA books. And hopefully we'll have that information for you. As soon as we get that information, hopefully positively, we will share that out. Because we're going to hope that they're going to be our partners with this.
But, you know, they're a state-funded organization too. Remember, it's the county. So it's your tax dollars at work, and taxes aren't so great right now. So I hope they won't have the same budget problems we do, but I'd be shocked if they don't. But we'll see. Hopefully they'll do it.
Right. Fingers crossed. Well, we hope to see you this afternoon at 2:30 for our Topical Tuesday, and then again next week at 11 for our next webinar.
Oh, yay, Cheryl. Your parents will purchase the books for their kids. That's good. Tell them to buy them from an indie bookstore and help the indies stay alive.
Yep, absolutely. Again, that list comes out Thursday, so watch social media. That's where it will be released. All right.
Thanks for being here. We had a great turnout. Thank you.
We did. Thanks for coming, and we will see you hopefully this afternoon.